measuring annual impact. So for this exercise, let's say we're right around a 0 on this. We're somewhere maybe in that 50% utilization range on our key species.
Right. We want to see probably 25–30% of the seed stalks still left on those plants.
And then the last one we're going to evaluate is opportunity. And what we're asking here is, did we allow our key species the opportunity to grow and or the opportunity to regrow if that's an issue? And how much of that season did we allow them? Did we allow them their full season opportunity? Did we allow them some opportunity or almost no opportunity? And in this situation, Mike, what do you think we might give on these?
Well, again, because this is an early season grazing event, the opportunity for regrowth is, in fact, nil, because you were grazing all the time that they had a potential to do some regrowth. If you look at this pasture over the longer term, though, and you know that you're in a rotational program so that you're going to graze, say, in August next year, then if you do the GRI on a multiple year basis, then you've got a much better score than you do this individual year.
That's a good point. So all we're getting here is our impact on this pasture for this particular year. And this might be a situation where we're hitting this one hard this year, but we've got it in our mind that in future years we're going to give this one some opportunity to recover. So are we at a -1 or a -2 here?
Well, you hit it at exactly the right time. It's a -2.
It's a -2. Okay. So there's our score in those three categories. Those are additive. We're going to add them up, and overall here, we're going to be at a -3 for this particular pasture. So what that tells you, if you've got a minus score, then that pasture is moving backwards in terms of its condition. If you're at a 0, you're essentially keeping that pasture in about the same in terms of its condition. And if you've got some positive scores, then we're improving the condition of that pasture. Let's do one more here real quick. Okay. All right, so here's our pasture. We're going to turn in 20 cows this time, and instead of turning them in the growing season, we're going to turn them in the 1st of December and take those out at the middle of January. So let's go through a quick GRI on that. So frequency. How many times are we going to graze those plants, Mike, that time of year?
Well, they'll probably get one.
Okay.
About all.
So is that a 0 or a +1?
Well, it's probably a +1.
Probably a +1. Okay. Frequency, 1 grazing. There we go, +1. Intensity. Okay, so we've upped our numbers here from 10 to 20. Let's say if last time was a 0, this time might be a -1. Okay, we're going to graze a little bit harder. Opportunity. So what did we allow in terms of these plants the opportunity to grow or regrow? Was it full season, partial season, or almost none?
They get a +2 this time.
They get a +2. So look at that. Just by changing the season of use, and even with increasing our number of animals, we've moved from a -3 to a +2 in this particular situation. So we are improving the condition of this piece of ground by changing some of these things. So that's how this tool is used. So the idea of this is at the end of the growing season, you go back through your pastures and you think about what your utilization on these was and give yourself a score in each of these categories and come out with an overall score and apply that score to this particular pasture. So in this year, with the situation we gave, this one would be a +2. In the previous example we gave, it'd be a -3. So you just write that right there on your pasture. So, okay, so we're ready. We've got some tools at hand now. So we've talked about estimating our production of a pasture. We've talked about evaluating our annual impact on that pasture. I think we're ready to develop a plan for the next year's grazing season. So here's the way you do this, okay? So it might be the middle of winter. It's a cold, blowy day outside. We want to spend some time inside doing some work at the desk. So this is a great time to do this, is maybe that January, December time of year when you just really don't want to be outside a whole lot. So we get our ranch out, lay out a map of our ranch. For this situation, we've got a nice square ranch, okay? And this has been divided into 4 pastures. So we've got pasture 1, pasture 2, pasture 3, and pasture 4. And we realize for this situation we're oversimplifying this, but we're trying to drive home the point of how to do this, okay? So maybe last year we see that we harvested 0.24 AUMs per acre out of pasture 1. Maybe in pasture 2 we harvested 0.4 AUMs per acre, and in pasture 3 we were in that 0.6 range, and in pasture 4 we were back down in the 0.24 range. Okay, so that's a good thing to have in mind, and write that on the map of your ranch, and write that on those pastures for what we took the previous growing season. And in terms of GRI, maybe this is the one we had a -3 on. We grazed that one at the wrong time of the year, or we grazed it too hard, or we just didn't allow those plants the opportunity to grow. And maybe here in this pasture, we were at a +1 in pasture number 2. Pasture number 3 might have been a 0, and maybe pasture 4 was a -2. Okay, so we've got our impact of last year's grazing activity on these pastures in terms of the GRI. We'll say for discussion's sake that our cows are going to be on hay till about the first part of May, and then we're going to turn them out to pasture. So here's the question we want to pose. Come May 1st, where are these cows going? What pasture are they going in? And then where are they going next? How long are they going to be in this pasture? And then when are they going on to the next one? So we've got our whopper herd of 10 cows here. And so that's the question. Where are we going to turn them out to come the 1st of May? Which pasture are they going to graze first? And then what's our rotation going to look like? So Mike, with that information in hand, do you want to take a stab at it?
Well, I would certainly think about going to the pasture with the best score for this year, because you're going to enter that pasture at a time when you're certain to come up with a negative score.
Okay, and we don't have all the information here at hand. Maybe there's some issues of cover for certain times of the year. Maybe there's some issues of what condition are these pastures in. Maybe pasture 2 is in real rough condition, and we're trying to improve that. And so we gave it a +1 last year, and maybe we want to follow it with another plus score this year. So I realize, Mike, I'm not giving you all the information at hand to make this, but I think you're making the point with me. I'd go here as well with just the limited amount of information we have. So we're going to turn out right in this pasture in May. All right, where are we going to go next? And maybe we're going to be here for 2 months, realizing we're going to have a pretty negative impact on this pasture. So where are we going to go come July?
Well, I think that you're probably looking at the one with the next best score.
All right, sounds good. We'll move those cows over into here. Now, the idea here of our example is not to say you always have to go in the rotation of best score to worst score. The idea is that you start thinking about these things and have a plan in mind come turnout time, when you're ready to start going out there and grazing your pastures. Maybe your answers are different than ours for a variety of reasons. But the most crucial thing is to start having these discussions and start developing a plan. Another important thing to realize is that once our precipitation story is starting to be told, once we start to get those early spring rains that are crucial for cool season grass growth, this whole plan might change. Maybe we planned on staying here for 2 months, but we just didn't get the rain that we needed in April. So maybe we realize instead of 2 months, we're going to get 1 month out of here, and that's going to carry forward through the rest of these pastures as well, and we're going to need to cut our utilization numbers in half. Again, the key is having a plan when you start that grazing season and knowing what impact that grazing at different times is going to have on those plants. So
the other important implication here of your particular scenario is that you need to raise the score for the whole set of 4 pastures.
Good point. We've got too many negative scores in there, don't we?
We sure do.
All right. So some strategies on that might be reducing cow numbers, maybe looking for some lease pasture to go on to during that critical growth window of those first few months. That would sure help too.